suspended Independent Development Trust CEO Tebogo Malaka and her spokesperson Phasha Makgolane have found themselves in hot water after being embroiled in an alleged journalist bribery scandal. The Daily Maverick has released exclusive video footage and audio clips from a meeting that investigative journalist Pieter-Louis Myburg had with the CEO and her spokesperson. In that video, Malaka and Makgolane seem to be presenting money in an attempt to allegedly cover up an ongoing Daily Maverick investigation involving an IDT contract and one of Malaka's upmarket properties. Now, last week, Public Works Minister Dean Macpherson announced a series of disciplinary and criminal actions following the findings of a forensic investigation into the IDT's controversial R8 million oxygen plant tender. Now, joining us for more on the story, which has taken on another dimension, is investigative journalist for the Daily Maverick Pieter-Louis Myburg. Pieter-Louis, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. What an expose. I mean, just watching that video and listening to audio, even without the proper context, just on the face of it, it seems the CEO has somehow dragged herself into more trouble. Let's just start with the context, though. Detail for us how you found yourself on that day interacting with the CEO face-to-face on the 3rd of August in Stellenbosch.
Yeah, so just very shortly, there is a bit of context and a bit of a lead up to this. I've been looking into the RDT's affairs since October last year when we exposed that oxygen plants scandal, the R800 million project that seemed to have been, mired in corruption and led to a PwC report and also ultimately Malaka's provisional suspension. But apart from the oxygen plants issue, I was also looking into other dealings involving Ms. Malaka as IDT CEO. So there is a IDT contract and a property development involving Ms. Malaka that is currently the focus of an ongoing investigation by Daily Maverick, which will be published next week. So it is this investigation that by all indications prompted an approach by first Mr. Tebogo, Mr. Makgolane, Phasha Makgolane, the spokesperson of the IDT, and then also leading to a meeting between Mr. Makgolane and Ms. Malaka and myself this Sunday, where the cash was presented. So in all indications are that this whole story and my investigation reached Ms. Malaka's ears. She was very worried about it, and then through her spokesperson, this meeting was set up where the money was presented so that Daily Maverick and myself would no longer pursue this issue that I am currently investigating and which we will publish very soon, next week, in fact.
Thank you for that comprehensive explanation, because it was going to be my next question, that if you have been investigating and written the several articles on the oxygen plant tender, which of course then prompted that full-scale forensic investigation, the outcomes were released and the disciplinary processes had already begun, because on the 3rd of August, Ms. Malaka had already been suspended, one would wonder, then why would the CEO still want to meet with you? Because everything that could have possibly happened would have happened by then. But you say it's based now on the upcoming story, which relates to her property, which is also linked to this IDT contract.
Yes, so it's linked to a different IDT contract. So this is completely unrelated to the oxygen plant scandal. There is another IDT contract involving Ms. Malaka and a very prominent Gauteng businessman, and that will be the focus of our next investigation. So we are not naming the businessman as of yet. Those details will be revealed on Monday in our next installment, and that certainly appears to be the issue that, yes, so she's already in hot water over the oxygen plants issue, but it does look like that issue gave her even more sleepless nights, and it's pending exposure, and it looks like that was the issue that she was so desperately hoping to quash by offering me the money.
Has law enforcement reached out to you since that expose?
They have not, no. I must add, though, that the Hawks, to my understanding, are investigating the oxygen plants issue and not the issues that we're currently dealing with. The PwC report also uncovered possible criminal infringements. And it's my understanding that, that report would also be considered by the Hawks in pursuing the oxygen plants investigation.
Do you have an intention, though, to reach out perhaps to law enforcement yourself to say there was an attempted bribery case? And of course, you've got the video footage as well as the audio clips. Do you intend to do so?
Daily Maverick and myself, we find ourselves in somewhat of an uncharted territory on this, and we are having discussions between our lawyers and other parties in terms of what we stand to do with the bribery issue.
Now, I'm sure you've also seen that the article and allegations from January, that I'm sure you remember this particular article, where there was an article, an opinion piece of sorts, that had alleged that there was Minister Dean Macpherson and certain journalists that had been bribed to tarnish the image of the IDT CEO at the time. I'm sure you've seen that already today. Some of those articles have resurfaced, and of course we all know how that story ended, because Times Live had issued an apology saying there was no evidence to substantiate the claims that were made in that specific opinion piece. But most certainly, nevertheless, there seems to be some sort of a parallel conversation that's happening today. There are those that are lauding you for the stellar work to expose that level of skullduggery, while others are now making blanket statements around journalists being bribed. How do you feel as an investigative journalist on a day such as today, where one would think that it would be a conversation around lauding a journalist who has put their own life at risk, honestly speaking, and expose such?
Yeah, look, there are always counter narratives and parallel narratives. We are very used to that sort of fallout. But to answer your question, I'm very familiar with those allegations of a journalist who had been bribed, because I was very much part of that fake news development. So the claims that were made about a journalist being bribed by Minister Macpherson were made on the back of falsified WhatsApp messages purporting to be conversations between myself and Minister Macpherson, where I would then supposedly get money to tarnish the reputation of Ms. Malaka and the IDT in general. We refuted those claims and pointed very clearly to the fact that the falsified WhatsApps contained such obvious mistakes, including my number that had a digit wrong, etc., that clearly they were fabricated. But nevertheless, it is concerning that whenever we get close to exposing real corruption, on the basis of actual forensic evidence and documentation on social media, most prominently, there are these smear campaigns that go out against journalists frequently, obviously in order to scupper our work and try and save face for those people who are involved in the actual corruption.
Pieter-Louis, thank you very much, though, for your time this afternoon. That's investigative journalist for the Daily Maverick, Pieter-Louis Myburg. But it must be stated that we are reaching out to the CEO, Ms. Malaka, and her spokesperson for their response, or even their legal team. So our producers are hard at work trying to get them to respond to some of these damning allegations and those video clips as well as audio.